There are places in this world that do not give things back. Blackwood Forest covers nearly 40,000 acres of dense, unbroken wilderness in the eastern part of the state. The Crest River runs to the heart of it, cold, fast in places, deceptively still in others. In autumn, when the leaves have gone and the light comes to the bare trees at a low angle, the forest becomes something else entirely, quieter, darker, a place that seems to hold its breath. On the morning of October 14th, 5 years ago, a 22-year-old woman named Margaret Cole walked out of Blackwood Forest alone. She had gone in 3 days earlier with 2 friends. She came out with one. The friend who didn't come home was Sarah Ellison. She was 21 years old. She loved the outdoors. She was the one who had convinced the other 2 to make the trip. She has not been found. The people who knew Sarah Ellison tend to describe her the same way, not in careful, chosen words, but in the immediate, unguarded language of people who still cannot fully believe she is gone. She was the one who said yes. To understand what that meant to people around her, you have to understand Margaret Cole and Rose Adeyemi, the 2 friends who went into Blackwood Forest with her that October. Both of them thoughtful, both of them cautious, both of them the kind of people who said maybe before they said yes, who needed time to think things over, who second-guessed themselves. Sarah did not second-guess herself. When an idea came to her, a trail she wanted to walk, a place she wanted to see, she was already moving before the others had finished deciding. She made the people around her brave by simply assuming they were. She had grown up 40 minutes from Blackwood Forest. Her father had taken her there first when she was 12, a single-day hike on one of the easier trails. She had been going back ever since. She knew the terrain. She knew the river. She called it her place, not possessively, but with the quiet ease of someone who feels at home somewhere they haven't built themselves. Her father, David Ellison, understood that. He had given it to her. He had put her boots on that first trail and watched her fall in love with the silence of trees, and he has carried that knowledge of having given her the things she loved and the place she vanished. Every single day for 5 years. Sarah's mother, Linda Ellison, describes her daughter as someone who carried things quietly, who was capable of great warmth and also great privacy, who shared what she wanted to share and kept what she wanted to keep. Linda has gone through Sarah's room, her journals, her messages, her notebooks. She has looked to the things Sarah was holding in the days before she disappeared. She has never found it. Whatever Sarah was carrying into Blackwood Forest that October, she kept it entirely to herself. The camping trip was planned in late September. 3 days, 2 nights. The Crest River Loop, one of Blackwood's more accessible routes, a trail Sarah had done before. She proposed it to Margaret and Rose the way she proposed everything. Directly, enthusiastically, with a clear assumption that of course they would come. Margaret hesitated. She had things going on. Rose said the timing was difficult. Sarah called Rose personally, told her she needed trees more than she needed whatever was keeping her at her desk. Rose went. That phone call has lived in Rose's memory ever since. What would have happened? She has asked herself more times than she can count. If she had said no, if the trip had been canceled, if Sarah had never gone back to her place that October. The first day was, by all accounts, exactly what Sarah had promised. They hiked through the morning, made camp at the designated site nearest the river, cooked over a fire as the temperature dropped and the sky above the trees filled with cold stars. Sarah was herself, fully, completely herself, laughing, pointing out things along the trail that the others would have walked past, leading the way. It was the second day that was different. Nobody can say exactly when the shift happened, whether it was something she heard that morning, something she was thinking about, something that arrived in the night and was still with her when she woke. What Margaret and Rose both remember, with the particular sharpness of a detail that has been replayed 10,000 times, is that by the afternoon of October 13th, Sarah Ellison was somewhere else. She was present. She was walking beside them. She answered when she was spoken to. But something had changed in the quality of her silence. It was no longer the easy quiet of someone who feels at home. It was the closed silence of someone working through something alone. Margaret noticed it at dinner. Sarah barely ate. She sat facing the river, looking at the water in the way you look at something when you're not really seeing it. When the thing you are actually looking at is inside your own head. Margaret made a note to ask about it in the morning. She told herself there was no rush, that Sarah seemed okay, that they had the whole next day together. Rose asked, simply and directly, if Sarah was all right. Sarah said she was tired. She smiled when she said it, the kind of smile that closes a conversation without ending it. They went to sleep sometime around 10:30. At some point between then and midnight, Sarah Ellison unzipped her sleeping bag, left her phone inside it, and walked out of the camp into the dark. She did not wake anyone. She did not leave a note. She took nothing except the clothes on her back. Nobody heard her go. Margaret woke first. 6:15 in the morning on October 14th. Sarah's sleeping bag was empty. She told herself not to worry. Sarah was an early riser. She sometimes went to the river at dawn to sit in the quiet before the others woke. She had done it before. Margaret made coffee. She watched the trail. She waited. 45 minutes passed. She woke Rose. They called Sarah's name. The forest absorbed the sound the way forests do, taking it in without returning anything. They walked the river trail in both directions from the campsite, moving faster as the minutes passed, calling louder, checking every clearing and every bend. There was no trace of her, no footprints they could identify with certainty, no sign that she had come this way at all. At 8:47 in the morning, Margaret used the emergency satellite communicator that Sarah had insisted they all carry. It was Sarah's rule, her one non-negotiable for any trip into Blackwood. You bring the communicator. You hope you never need it. You bring it anyway. She called for help, the call that Sarah had made them prepare for, the call none of them had ever believed they would actually make. The park ranger arrived within the hour. He asked Margaret and Rose to describe what had happened. They told him everything. The quiet second day, the dinner by the fire, Sarah's changed manner, the phone left behind. They searched their own account for crack. The moment, the detail that explained everything. There was none. There was dinner and a fire and 3 sleeping bags, and then morning and an absence where a person had been. The formal search of Blackwood Forest began that afternoon. Over the 11 days that followed, more than 200 volunteers moved through Blackwood Forest alongside park rangers and county search and rescue teams. Helicopters passed over the canopy in slow grids. Dive teams entered the Crest River. Dogs worked the trail from the campsite outward in every direction. 40,000 acres of forest, 23 miles of river. On the 4th day, they found Sarah's camping bag. It was sitting on the bank of the Crest River, approximately 1.5 miles downstream from the campsite. Unzipped, undamaged, her water bottle still inside, a spare jacket, a small notebook filled with her handwriting, trail notes, sketches of birds, observations about the particular way light fell through the canopy at different times of day, small, careful drawings of leaves and stones and the river in different moods. She had put it down by the water. She had put it down deliberately by the water in the dark 1.5 miles from camp. And then she had walked away from it, or something had taken her from it, and the forest had not kept any record of which. The bag yielded no forensic evidence of harm, no signs of struggle at the riverbank, no clear footprints beyond the soft impression of someone who had crouched at the water's edge. The dive teams found nothing in the river. The search teams found nothing in the forest beyond the bag. After 11 days, the formal search was scaled back. After 14 days, it effectively ended. David Ellison drove to the trailhead the day after the search was called back. He stood at the entrance to Blackwood Forest and looked into the trees. He has said, in the years since, that he felt something in that moment that he has struggled to describe. Not despair, not anger, something quieter and more permanent. The understanding that the forest was not going to cooperate, that it had taken his daughter somewhere he could not follow, that the rules he had always believed in, effort rewarded, questions answered, searches that find things, did not apply here. He goes back every October. He walks the trail. He sits by the river. He talks to her. He does not know if she can hear him. He goes anyway. The investigation into Sarah Ellison's disappearance has remained officially open for 5 years. It sits in a file in a Harkin County Sheriff's Department alongside 11 other active missing persons cases, according to public records. Open does not mean active. This is a distinction that the families of the missing learn over time, slowly, and almost always against their will. In the first year after Sarah disappeared, Margaret Cole and Rose Adeyemi received regular updates. Someone returned their calls. The case felt, if not urgent, at least present, a thing being attended by people who had not yet given up on it. In the second year, the calls became less frequent. By the third year, Margaret began keeping a record how many times she reached out versus how many times someone reached back. The numbers told their own story. The last time the Sheriff's Department contacted her was 14 months ago. A brief call to confirm the case remained open. Nothing new to report. Nothing new on the horizon. Linda Ellison does not use the word anger when she talks about this. She is past anger. She says this not as someone who has made peace with it, but as someone who has simply carried the weight long enough to stop expecting it to feel lighter. What she wants people to understand is what an open investigation means in practice for a case like Sarah's. It means the file exists. It means if something surfaces, there is somewhere to bring it. It does not mean someone is actively searching. It has not meant that for a long time. Rose Adeyemi has spent years reading about wilderness disappearances. Not out of morbidity, out of need. The need to understand whether what happened to Sarah was possible. Whether a person could walk into 40,000 acres of forest and leave no trace that any search could find. The answer, she discovered, is yes, it happens. The wilderness does not cooperate with the human need for evidence. It does not organize itself around the questions of the people searching it. A river moves, weather passes through, animals cross a scene, the forest closes over whatever enters it, and it does not keep records. The world, Rose has come to understand, does not owe the people who love someone an explanation of what happened to them. That understanding has not made it easier. It has only made it more accurate. 5 years is a long time to hold a question without an answer. It changes people differently. Some it breaks openly. Some it hardens into something functional and quiet. Some it turns into a practice, a ritual, a discipline of grief carried out with such regularity that it becomes simply part of how a person moves through the world. Linda Ellison keeps Sarah's room the same. She is clear about what this does and does not mean. It is not denial. It is not a refusal to accept what the evidence most likely points to. It is a decision, a deliberate, considered decision, that her daughter's room will remain hers, that the things inside it will be kept with care, because if the worst is true, as Linda believes most days it probably is, then that room is the last place where Sarah is still fully herself. Her books, her trail maps with the routes marked, her notebooks, the one she left at home, not the one she carried into Blackwood, her handwriting on 100 small pieces of paper. Linda is not ready to pack that away. She may never be. She has stopped apologizing for that. David goes back to Blackwood every October. He parks at the trailhead and walks the Crest River loop alone. The same trail his daughter last walked. The same river that held her bag and nothing else. He has done this 4 times now. He does not expect to find anything. He no longer expects the forest to offer an explanation or a resolution, or any of the things that the human mind reaches for when it cannot stop reaching. He goes because his daughter loved the place, because she called it hers, because in some way he does not fully understand. Standing in the forest in October is the closest he can get to standing next to her. Margaret and Rose still speak, not as often as they once did. There is something painful in the connection. They are bound to each other by the best friendship they had, and by the worst night of their lives. And sometimes those two things cannot be held in the same place at the same time. But they speak, and every October, they drive to the trailhead together. They do not go in. They stand at the entrance to Blackwood Forest, and they think about the evening of October 13th, about the fire and the quiet, and the small moment where someone asked if Sarah was all right and received the kind of answer that closes a conversation. They think about everything they did not say, about whether saying it would have changed anything, about whether there was, in Sarah's quietness that evening, a question that she needed someone to ask the right way. They will never know. That not knowing is not a mystery they expect to solve. It is simply the shape that the rest of their lives will take. The Crest River moves through Blackwood Forest the same way it always has. Unhurried, steady, unbothered by the questions of the people who come to stand at its edges looking for answers it does not hold or will not give. Sarah Ellison's camping bag sits in an evidence room in Harkin County. The small notebook inside it, filled with her handwriting, her observations, her careful drawings of birds and leaves in river light, has been photographed and cataloged and stored. The handwriting of a person who was paying attention to the world she was moving through, who was documenting what she saw because it mattered to her, who drew a bird on a branch in the margin of a trail note because she noticed it and couldn't let it pass uncaptured. Nobody has explained what she was carrying in her mind that last evening. Nobody has explained why she left in the dark. Nobody has explained the bag placed deliberately at the water's edge, 1.5 miles downstream, in the middle of the night, and then nothing. The forest kept her. The river offered nothing back. Some disappearances end in answers. A body found. A truth established. A family given something to grieve over. Something solid and known and terrible and real. Some disappearances do not end. They become the shape of a life, the outline of a person pressed into days of everyone who loved them, never fading, never becoming less, simply present in the permanent way that absence can be present when the question stays open. Sarah Ellison was 21 years old. She said yes when the people around her hesitated. She made them brave without trying to. She put her boots on the trail she loved and walked into the forest she called her place. And the forest kept her, and her mother keeps the light on, and her father walks the trail alone every October, and her friends stand at the trailhead and say her name into the trees, and the river moves, and the forest holds its breath, and she has not been found.